Do you have a clear set vision for what you want to accomplish? Does it look like the opportunities that are in front of you are capable for you to overcome? If you don't have that vision completely painted out, then you're missing out on an opportunity. You're missing out on the opportunity to have that experience already accomplished in your brain. And I suggest for you to take the moment right now to look at what it is that you want to accomplish. Write it out. Say it out loud. Do these things so you know that you can accomplish it and start to believe it. Go over it and over it and over it again as if you have already accomplished it. This will give you the understanding that you have already accomplished it. So when it comes time for that opportunity to be at your presence, for you to step up and take on the opportunity, it will be like you've already done it. Those repetitions have already been in the opportunity book and have been completed because you have played out everything in your mind. So if you're doubting yourself, write it out. If you don't know what to do, write it out. Find that vision, create that vision, manifest everything that you've always wanted, and become the man that you've always dreamed of. Roll that intro. Welcome to the Man Up and Own It podcast, where we deal with difficult situations that most men face, and we overcome them by telling the stories of men who have succeeded in overcoming them. Today, I'm here with my friend Niko.
What's up, dude?
How are you, bro?
Dude, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
That's a great question. Shortly put, I'm a mindset and energetic coach. I also have a podcast called the Just Grow podcast. And probably the biggest thing about me is that, like what we were talking about just a moment ago, is I'm really big on visualization and having that clear-cut vision on who you're becoming. And that makes life a lot more simple. I think a lot of men specifically get kind of confused on who they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do. And it's because they don't have a clear direction in their life because they don't know who they are.
Well, it's kind of hard to do anything in life unless you have that clear image. And if you can't paint what that picture might look like, how do you have a map to go towards it?
Right. It's like a GPS system, right?
Absolutely.
Like if you don't plug in the coordinates, like you're going to be going to San Diego when you think you're supposed to be going to Austin.
And then you're like, wait a minute. There's a beach here.
Yeah.
And
this doesn't look like Austin.
And the water's really cold.
Right.
So what got you into the whole visualization part?
Yeah, it was from when I played baseball. I played baseball in college, and my mom gave me a copy of The Secret when I was 18.
Okay.
So it just kind of just planted that seed that, you know, you can create things in your mind and they can actually come to fruition. And I know a lot of people kind of think that can be some woo-woo stuff, but I've just seen it in real time in so many different ways. And the first time was when I would visualize, every night before I went to bed, I would visualize myself hitting a home run off the 7 of the scoreboard. The first pitch of the last inning, a walk-off home run, I would round the bases, my team would come home plate, and I saw that exactly. And I most importantly, I felt it. I felt it. I got chills when I saw that. And there was one game that literally happened exactly the way it was supposed to.
It was like deja vu in a way, right?
It was like, it wasn't even like a confidence, or it wasn't even like a cockiness. It was just like a knowing.
Yeah. Like
I stepped up to the plate and like chills came down my back before the pitcher even let go of the ball. Dude. And then it happened, and then it was like slow motion where the ball just like went off my bat and it just like rocketed right off the 7. And I'm running around the bases and I'm like, what actually just happened? Like, this is far beyond baseball.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time. I felt I was just like the badass, cool guy rounding the bases, but at that point, I knew it was something far bigger than that.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I find that people believe it when it's bad, but if it's something good, like what you just said, all of a sudden it's woo-woo.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll picture, like for a man, he'll picture his girl cheating on him multiple times, just running it through his head over and over and over again. And then when she does it, he's like, I knew you would do that. Yeah. But yet, if he would picture himself getting the promotion or getting married or having a successful family, that's too good to be true. Mm. Have you ever found that in the coaching?
Yeah. I think worrying, one of my mentors said, worrying is negative goal setting.
Interesting. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, because it's just what you said. And, I'm a big fan of manifestation, right? And just what you said is people only take credit or, in your words, think it's woo when it's the good things. But here's the thing is that like when you break things down simply, it helps people understand them more. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's like this misconception out there about manifestation, thinking that it's like, is this woo-woo stuff? But it's nothing more than a creation process. Yeah. Just like a plant. Like what happens? You put a seed in the ground, you cover it up, you nurture it, you water it, you give it sunlight, and eventually, as long as you don't stop doing all that stuff, it sprouts and it becomes a tree, right? So it's the same thing with manifestation because everything starts in your mind. It's a thought. You have to nurture those thoughts with emotions. That's why I said about feeling. I felt that home run. I felt it. And I kept doing it. I kept doing it. I kept doing it until it all of a sudden became physical reality.
And then boom. Now, did you continue doing the process after that?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, and you're an entrepreneur as well. Like when we figure out something that works, we think we're smarter and we can figure out something better instead of just doing the things that we know works. So it's a constant reminder to go back to the things that work. So yeah, I did a lot more in baseball. There was another particular game down the road where I actually got kind of threatened to be benched because I was just playing very poorly by my coach. And it was on a team that I had no business being benched. And so I just went back to the workshop and kept seeing it. And the next game, I was literally like 0 for like 21 with 5 strikeouts. And then he told me that, and I just went back to my routine. And the next game, I went 5 for 5, had a walk-off hit, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing!" And I was like, "Yes," but like, it's again the knowing, because I went 100 for 100 the night before right before I was going to bed, and that's the important part too. Is like do it before you go to bed.
And I have a mentor that said the same thing. He said, go to bed, give yourself the problem that you want to solve and allow yourself, your subconscious, to process that and allow it to show you how you're going to fix it. Mm-hmm. Then he went further on to, you write it out. How did you fix it? But write about it in a sense that you've already accomplished it.
Yeah.
And then repeat the process. How do I accomplish getting on stage? And then I would go to sleep, wake up, and I'm like, oh, I did this and this and this, and this is how I felt. And then all of a sudden, boom, that shit happened for me.
Yep.
Now, I didn't write down that I jump off the stage and get injured. And I think that's but I think I got ahead of myself to the point where I was just so into it where boom, reality struck.
Mm-hmm. And I think one thing to add to that is that like you got it out of your head. Mm-hmm. This is my take. I mean, I teach a lot of vision work, and my take is that it's not really a vision if it's in your head.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because it's like as I speak, I create, right? Have you ever heard of abracadabra?
Yes.
So yeah, in Hebrew, it's translated to as I speak, I create. And like ask and it's given. Like when you proclaim something to God or whatever you believe, like, and you say it boldly with conviction, that's what he responds to. Mm-hmm. Like a vision isn't just like, oh, I'm hoping that I might get a Ferrari one day. It's like, no, I was firm. Like I said, I come back to this whole thing about it's a knowing, it's a conviction. And you have a knowing and conviction when you get it out. And I personally believe in speaking it out. That's why, like, within our company, we have these things they're called vision videos and vision audios.
Mm-hmm.
And they're basically like a vision board, but in movie format. And then we have the person speak everything out as if it's already happened.
Okay.
And then we put like emotional music on the background. We have their friends and their family in it, and it makes them feel really good.
Right.
And then they spoke that with conviction. And we've had clients that literally like 5x their business before they even get their video back because of the fact that they spoke it out with conviction.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started listening to it every day, and then it just keeps seeping deeper and deeper in your subconscious, and then it's game over.
It makes sense because they believe it. They believe it to be true. It's interesting how you use the word "I hope," and that is a system of doubt. It's like almost like you're giving yourself a way out. So if it doesn't happen, it's okay because you weren't convicted into it. What is your interpretation of the "I am"?
I am. It's everything, man.
Absolutely.
Everything that comes after that. I mean, it's interpreted into, that's the Yahweh, God.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what your religious beliefs are, your spiritual beliefs, but I personally I've been developing a much deeper relationship with God, and actually, ironically enough, I just happened the other day, but I got baptized again on Sunday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a big step. I obviously got baptized when I was an infant, but I just made the commitment back to God and really build that relationship. He's been just very good to me my entire life, and especially lately, just lots of blessings. And so just time to honor him. And it's like, it's crazy what happens when you, like, it's that commitment.
Once again, we're right back to it, right? And being a man of your word.
Yeah.
Because if you're not committed to anything, then you'll stand for anything. You'll do anything. And even if that means at the degradation of your character.
Yeah. And at that point, like, you know who you are, you know what you stand for, because it's like, this is what I find crazy. I was even having a conversation with a good friend today, and like, if you're not being truthful to who you are, you're not talking. Someone else is talking. And we were even talking about this in the sense of relationships. Like, this happens all the time, and I've experienced it too. Like, I'm still on my journey 100%.
Right.
But it's like, if you're going out you're going on dates with a woman and you're putting on your best face and it's not truly you, and you're not being congruent to who you are, and she's probably doing the same thing because everyone's putting on their best face when they're starting out. But then all of a sudden you guys are both attracted to each other, but you're attracted to someone that's not actually you.
To a false identity.
Right? And then you start finding out each other, and then you're like, oh, I don't like you anymore. Well, it's because I wasn't attracted to what I really wanted.
You were attracted to an idea of who that person might be.
Yeah.
Which is sad, because I agree with you that even if it's not even a date, like, you could be at work and you working for a company, and all of a sudden you find out that this company isn't following what they say that they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the media is a prime example of it, right? It tells us a story, which it thinks that we might want to hear so they can get views.
Yeah, that's why attention is one of the most powerful currencies right now.
Absolutely. I think it's been the powerful currency since the beginning of time, though.
Yeah. It's becoming more scarce now. There's more competition.
Absolutely. More availability, more opportunity. Like, social media has completely changed the game, which I believe is a huge distraction for men from having a purpose. So now they're living even more vicariously through the screen than what they used to.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to get into this because I heard you talking about the last guy. My take is that it's a powerful tool. And just like any powerful tool, it can be used for good, it can be used for bad.
Absolutely.
My take is that it's to have strong boundaries around social media, which is not easy, because the more you're on it, the more you get addicted to it, the more you like fall into the traps, right? So it's a balance, and it's something that I've really, had my bouts with. But I also believe it's such a powerful tool. We wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's how I found you. I scrolled through and I saw some of your stuff. I was like, dude, I love this. Now, if I didn't have integrity, I would have been willing to just take anybody in. And my message is very clear and set. It's consistent over and over. Like, be the best version of yourself. How are you doing that? Are you taking care of your health? Are you presenting yourself correctly? Are you surrounding yourself with the right people?
Yeah.
And I would see that with you, and I'm like, dude, I got to have you on my show. And I was like, sending you a message, and that wouldn't have existed if social media didn't be in availability.
Yeah, it's powerful. I mean, I love it. I mean, just like we talked about with my podcast, is like the relationships that I've made, the connections that I've had, the conversations, just literally the conversations have transformed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be the case if it wasn't for social media.
I would even go further. It wouldn't be the case if you wouldn't be confident in the person that you are and be true to the word that you put out, right?
Yes. And I've learned a lot of that through my conversations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have a huge amount of gratitude for social media. It's a wild world for sure. And that's why I just believe like having strong boundaries around it. Like for me, I don't like a hard rule for me is no phone in the bed.
Oh, nice.
Like not even in my bedroom, really. It's always in my bathroom or in my kitchen. So when the alarm goes off, I wake up, I get out of bed. Like I'm not perfect by any means, but like most time I'm not snoozing. Like that's a big thing too. Cause I mean, this opens up a whole nother conversation, but like if you're saying 5 more minutes on your first test of the day,
Mm-hmm.
that's not setting yourself up for success.
Interesting enough, I just had a previous conversation in a few podcasts ago where we talked about that, where we talked about every time you hit the snooze button, what are you telling yourself? You made a commitment to setting that alarm because evidently something was important enough for you to get up at a specific time. And then alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button. What did you just tell your subconscious? Did you tell yourself, oh, it's okay? Because you justified in the fact that you weren't worthy to follow through with your actions. And then all of a sudden you're just building this momentum of you're not good enough. You're not good enough. So then when the bigger opportunity comes or the bigger situation, now you've told your subconscious that I'm not capable of following through. And what is the likelihood that you follow through in the big moments if the little moments weren't executed appropriately?
Yeah. And I think on top of that is like the whole concept of being decisive. Because like I say this a lot too, is like if you're having trouble picking out what shirt you're going to wear or what restaurant or what food item you're going to pick from the menu, if you can't make that quick decision, how are you going to make a quick decision? How are you going to make like a empowered decision
Yes.
with a relationship?
Absolutely.
With a business partnership?
Well, that's a really interesting point. And I listen to a lot of the relationship social media stuff, and how they talk about the woman's like, I want him to tell me where we're going to go eat. Well, that's a confidence thing. And like you just talked about right now, like you look at a menu, if you can't make a decisive decision about what you're going to eat, how does that woman feel like you're going to be able to make the tough decision in the moments of severe stress? There's no way that she's going to feel confident in your ability to lead. So how does she respect you?
Which comes down to knowing like who you are, what you stand for, and what are your values. Like that's a big thing for me. It's like whenever like I hear this all the time is that one of the first questions I ask my clients is, what do you want? A lot of people have a hard time answering that question. It's because they don't know who they are. It's because they don't know who or what they value.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get clear on your values, everything else gets a lot more simple. Like for me, some of my highest values are truth, honesty, experience, communication. No wonder I started a podcast event company.
Right.
And that dawned on me one time when we started our podcast, and I told you outside, it was like in an event style where we had people in the room listening to us having a conversation. And then it started getting so big, we actually had to move it to a live performance theater inside Fashion Square Mall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a whole journey, man. It's still a journey. We have another event coming up on March 29th. But I was like on stage one time and I realized that in the moment, I was just like, this all came from like just making a decision.
But you knew what you wanted. Now, let's go back to what you had talked about before with the manifestation.
Yeah.
Did you paint that picture of what it is that you wanted? Did you see that already? Like you're up on stage just talking to these people?
Yeah, this even goes further into my vision, and it's become even more crystallized. But I've shared this at a couple of my events recently because it's really what's driving me for everything. I mean, I kind of have like there's a lot to my vision, just as I think everyone should have a lot to their vision. But two big things is like building up our coaching company and the vision videos, but also the podcast. And because that's what really drives me. I love having these conversations. This is where I'm the most present. And coming back to my values of truth, honesty, communication, growth. Like that's why I love these conversations, because they're part of my values. Mm-hmm. And so I've just seen massive healing and the conversations that spawn off our events and the love for one another. Cause like we have these type of conversations. We get deep, and I've seen the healing in real time. And my vision for that, cause I had a friend that really, he like challenged me. He's like, what's the vision? You're playing a little small right now. Like, what's the vision? And I said, stadium event.
Oh shit.
So I don't usually put timelines on things.
Yeah.
I let God kind of figure that out. But my vision is to do, if it's meant to be, I'm also just kind of like, I do surrender to God and just have faith in him. But my vision is to do a stadium event at Chase Field in downtown Phoenix, preferably in the next 3 years.
Okay.
So some type of podcast event. We'll probably bring in some other facilitators. It might be a panel podcast. We'll kind of figure it out as it goes and how it all unfolds. But like that's what's driving me. And again, it comes back to my values because I'm all about truth, communication, relationships, experience. Like I love putting on experiences so people like feel like they're part of something.
Right. They feel like they had input into it, right? I think that's something that we all strive for, is this opportunity to have a moment of like, I contributed. I was a part of this.
Yeah.
Like one thing that I have found value in, have you read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Yep.
My favorite part of that book was where he talks about the difference of being interested and being interesting.
Yeah.
And I love asking people questions, but maybe in a sense it's the opportunity for an individual to feel heard and to be seen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing that we can all agree on that we want in our lives. Like, I'm noticed, I'm important, you know?
That's all anybody ever wants. I don't even care. Like anybody, gangsters, criminals, like everyone wants love and everyone wants to be seen and heard, no matter if they say it or not.
So how would you recommend for a man to go about getting that type of attention in a positive way?
I think it's about giving it to yourself first. I've really been on this big self-love journey. It's so cool. I think I was like, again, calling that in. And somehow I got connected with this girl. She lives up in Wisconsin. Shout out Mackenzie England. She's just a boss.
Mackenzie England, wherever camera we're on right now, you're a boss.
She's amazing. And she's really helped me with my self-love journey. I call her my self-love mentor.
Okay.
And she's even inspired me so much with all the things I've been learning over the last few months. I'm doing a master class tomorrow. Love yourself masterclass.
Love yourself.
And I think, the way I deem it, and I was actually putting all the slides together today, I kind of deem like your self-love is your battery. And think about with your phone. When your battery gets really low, below 5%, it starts kind of like wigging out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so if I'm putting that power in someone else's hands to determine where my battery level is at, trying to get love from someone else, it's just going to continue to fluctuate.
Yeah.
But if you control your source and you give yourself that love, like you control your destiny, you take ownership. And probably a couple of the biggest things that's helped me. Have you heard of love languages?
Absolutely.
So she imparted this on me is like, most people think about it as a way like, all right, you figure out your love language, then you communicate that to your partner or whoever you're with so that they can give you that love. But again, that's external,
Yep.
right? So what I've done is I figure out my love languages. One of my top ones is quality time.
Okay.
And I just give myself that love. Like I go on solo trips every once in a while.
Okay.
I just go out to dinner by myself, go out to lunch by myself. I pray, I meditate. So that's why that's so powerful to me, because it's like, I'm spending time with myself.
Interesting.
So figure that out. Like there's all these tests online it can show you. And then I have a bunch of different like sheets and stuff that like will all correlate to like all the activities that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a great starting point. And then I also think music is really good.
Interesting. I agree with you on the music thing and the love language thing. The music thing I utilize as a tool. So like before I go on stage, before I go talk, I listen to like Justin Timberlake's Summer of Love because it just gets me like in love. Like I'm excited, but not in the sense of like heavy metal makes me want to lift heavy objects, you know? So I utilize it as tools to drive me in a specific way.
Yeah.
Can you relate to that?
100%. Because it's like music, like, so I always come back to everything's a frequency as well. This comes back a little bit more into the manifestation stuff, but like energy is like the truest thing, whether you believe it or not. Because they can even measure it. Like they have these tools out there apparently. I haven't learned about that, but have you ever heard of the scale of consciousness?
Recently, you know what? It's funny you bring that up. I just heard about it today.
David Hawkins?
Yes.
Yeah, he's wrote a few really good books, Power vs. Force, Letting Go. They're dense books. They're really good. But he has this chart in there. It's called the scale of consciousness, and it just basically shows the frequency of all of the emotions, anywhere from guilt, shame is at the bottom, and then it's
Low
gratitude,
vibration,
love up there. And so I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Dun, dun, dun. I understand what you're saying though. And it's funny that we look at our primitive needs. Those are all low vibrational. I understand it in a sense of like when they look at like the chakras, right? They look at like your primal instincts are your lower chakras, and your higher vibrational phases are like your higher chakras are up higher in your body, right? So
wait, it came to me.
Okay, let's do it.
Before it slips again. So music, coming back to music is frequency, right? So it's one of the quickest ways to change your frequency. Because if you're at a low state, what I've started doing recently is I'll put together specific Spotify. I use Spotify. I put together specific playlists to make me feel a certain emotion. So even like, and you can use it for anything. Like for me, I was writing this sales page for my master class last week, and I put together a self-love list or a self-love playlist, and I would just jam that in the weight room, and I would just be feeling all this self-love, and then I'm in that frequency, and then I just write the sales page, and it just pours out of me.
Interesting. Have you ever done DMT?
I have. It hasn't been like a real profound experience. I have done ayahuasca.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so there's DMT in that and whatnot.
I did a DMT trip, and I did the tones. Well, YouTube went from high frequency tones to a low frequency tone. And you want to talk about a trip. I went from seeing happy stuff, I was excited, great things were happening, to the feeling of impending doom.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you bring up those tones, because that's what it took me to right now. It took me to this moment of like, oh shit, that is reasoning as to why what happened. And that was the last time I ever did DMT. But
again, powerful tools, right?
Absolutely.
Be smart with them. You got to be careful with them. Be intentional with them. That's what psychedelics have taught me, to be very intentional.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
If you're not intentional, like what's the quote? My friend Jesse Ray, shout out Jesse, of Growth House. He said, when you live intentionally, nothing is random.
Yep. You're making specific actions to create a specific outcome for what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're just willfully running around with our heads cut off, then who knows what's to come of it.
Yeah. And I think it's like, I've even made this metaphor. I think intentions are kind of like bowling bumpers, because like we're not being so specific where it's like, this has to be exactly what it is. And this is the expectation now, because I think expectations ruin things.
Absolutely.
But if you just set the intention of like, so for me, a lot of times, like my intention is just to be present, be in the moment. Or my intention is to, with my vision, I want to do a stadium event. Like that's my intention, but I'm not like attached to the outcome. So I think like when you can set intentions, but not be attached to like the very nuanced specifics. And then if you don't hit those, then all of a sudden it's a failure. I think if you can leave it a little bit more broad, that's how it's helped me. Because I've gotten really specific at times, and then I get disappointed if it doesn't happen exactly how I see it.
You brought up an interesting word, and that was expectations. Now, what I understand expectations to be is agreements that we make with ourselves, and sometimes they're not realistic. And if we have expectations of others, we've made an agreement of what somebody should be that they haven't necessarily agreed to.
Right.
And that can set us up for potential suffering.
100%. My friend said it, Ryan Tamita, shout out Ryan. Have you met Ryan?
Potentially.
Middle finger mantras. Does that sound familiar?
No, it's someone that I've been wanting to meet. I've heard a lot about him.
He would be a great podcast guest. He's amazing. I can connect you. I saw you interviewed Wolf.
Yes.
I thought maybe you guys had linked, because I've known Wolf for a little bit, but we were at the same middle finger mantras retreat where we went out and we shot guns. We did hand-to-hand combat.
Okay.
We meditated.
I heard
real conversations.
I learned about a middle finger mantra from Arizona entrepreneur Devin.
Oh, cool.
But I haven't had the opportunity yet to be introduced to him.
Yeah, be happy to.
So if you're out there, I want to meet you. You sound awesome.
Yeah. Anyways, that was a little side tangent. But he's just really smart, and he was actually the last podcast guest for our event. We had it on February 2nd. And it was really cool because he shared his, we were talking about masculinity, what he calls masculinity 2.0. I'm still getting a little sidetracked here. But he said, I'm paraphrasing here, but like unexplained expectations is planned resentment.
Yeah.
Because if you're like having these expectations and you're not even communicating them, like you're literally planning on resenting this person.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've set them up for failure because you've agreed upon something that they're not privy to the information of. So it's like we look at a relationship and we expect our spouse to do X, Y, and Z. But if we haven't clearly communicated what those expectations are, there's no agreement upon what they're supposed to do. So now all of a sudden we're walking around resenting them because they didn't come through with what we believe that they should be coming through with.
Yeah. Which again, I believe that it comes back to knowing yourself and then communicating that too. Like communication is everything, and like healthy communication. A friend of mine and I, it's interesting because for a long time I avoided like tough conversations, and now I've had a wild journey through it because at first I was like, I avoided them. Then I was like, oh, tough conversations. And then I like dove all in. I'm just like, let's continue to have deep conversations.
Right.
So I'm like finding my balance, but a friend of mine and I are having a really good conversation kind of back and forth through voice messages about like basically just like kind of some money issues that we were like making sure that we square away. And it's just been a really healthy conversation about talking about potentially like a sensitive subject, but as long as we come from a place of like just mutual respect.
Absolutely.
That's when things are healed. And that's why I'm so passionate about the podcast as well, is that when you have healthy conversations and you can do that in that healthy manner, like I feel like that could change everything in this world.
It does. It opens the opportunity for people to understand. So if there's one last bit of information that you feel that a man could utilize to make himself become the man that he would always want to be, what would it be?
I heard you ask this, the other guy too, this, so I kind of pondered on it. And he was talking about like, learn from people. And I agree with that. I think it's also important to, really take audit of who you're learning from. I think that's been big for me because I've invested a lot into mentorship and coaching programs and courses and whatnot. And my thing is that, learn from someone that has what you want, has been where you've been, and has also done it the way you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing too, is that like, I would also say that like, don't take everything someone says as gospel, because things are always changing. Things are always evolving.
Yep.
The world's changing. You're changing. And I come back to the whole thing is like, know yourself, because you know that you ultimately know the answers. And the more that you know yourself, the more that, what I like to say is like, the more that you can clear out the interference, the more that you can get present, whether you want to go do plant medicine or whatnot, that's definitely some stuff that cleared me out. But once you can kind of clear all the junk out, like, the answers, and whether it's you or God, whatever you want to say, I believe it's, the same thing. So,
absolutely.
Learn, just constantly be in a state of learning, but also, learn to trust yourself too.
Believe in yourself, be able to do it. All right. If they want to find you, if they want to find your podcast, how do they go about that?
Yeah, you can go to justgrowpodcast.com. That'll have all the information on our next event on March 29th. And then we'll update it for the rest of the events the rest of the year. You can also go to justgrowvisions.com. That's for our coaching company and the vision videos. And then Instagram, looking pretty fly there.
Yeah.
Instagram, NIKOARAPKILES.
I suggest that you go out and follow this guy and take in his information. And I want to thank you for joining us at the Man Up and Own It podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, because we're here to help you deal with situations that may be uncomfortable by giving you the information from the stories of the men that have succeeded in overcoming all of those difficult moments. Thank you.